Wow. We did it, folks. 100 episodes. Hold the applause. Hold the applause. Thank you so much for sticking with us for 100 episodes of the Northern Steel Podcast. This is insane. I'm your host, Dominic, and with me is my brother, Chris. Chris, name that famous 100.
The guy who comes to name is good old Charles Shoeless Jones.
Charles Shoeless Jones, up number 100 in our hearts and our minds forever. Chris, we made it. Episode 100. How you feeling, man?
How did this happen? I feel like this thing just started, and now we're at 100. Who allowed this to continue?
We did, but because definitely not you all listening. I can promise you that. All 7 of you did not, but hey, don't worry, we're not dogging on you for listening. All 7 of you, we appreciate it. We appreciate the support we've had thus far, and we're very thankful. But man, do we have an action-packed episode for you today? Because Chris, if you wouldn't mind, can I ramble for a sec?
Ramble on, brother.
We had an action-packed episode. The plan was for episode 100. I think we alluded to a lot, to go to the NFL draft live, which we did do. Don't get me wrong, we did do it. We did not lie about that. However, our plan was to do a 100th episode of us recording ourselves at the draft, talking about all 3 hours at the draft, and interviewing teams and talking about their picks. And Chris and I wrote tons of jokes, and we wrote a lot of material.
It took us hours.
And it was going to be super funny and fun and a way to go out on a bang, spoiler, because this might be it for us. However, that didn't happen. We still went to the draft. Chris had some scheduling conflicts at work, some miscommunication at work. And, we're now got to pause because I have a little one here. Sorry, that was my son, Miles, and this wouldn't be a Northern Steel podcast without something interrupting it and causing disarray. But as I was saying, we were at the draft. We were ready to do all these things, but Chris had the scheduling conflicts, and we did not get to the draft in Green Bay until 6 o'clock. Our goal was to be there around, I don't know, 3, maybe even earlier.
Or if not earlier,
maybe 2. Our goal was to be there pretty early, but we got there at 6 o'clock. We walked straight to where they let you in, like beelined it there. It was a 25-minute walk. We got to where they let you in at 6:30, and there's a big giant sign that said, "We're not accepting any more people in the area. We're at full capacity. We're sorry." And we were just heartbroken. And there's a giant line of people there, and they weren't leaving. They weren't moving. Chris had to pee his pants, but we decided we got to stick around and see what's going on. And people were just leaving the line. They would leave the line and they would say, "Good luck getting in." They're not letting anybody in. They told us they're not letting anybody in, but no one was leaving. And we just stuck around. 30 minutes pass. Another 30 minutes pass. The draft has started. I'm watching the draft on our phone. Craziness is happening, which we'll get into. And I turned to Chris and I said, "Hey, after round 5, if they're not letting people in, let's get out of here. Let's go watch at a restaurant or a bar or somewhere." I mean, there's tons of festivities that was going on in Green Bay. Let's go watch it somewhere so we can have fun. We made the trip. Let's go do something, right? And we're on pick 5. And I'm going to be honest, I'm getting a little impatient during pick 5. I set the precedent of after pick 5, and during pick 5, I'm like, man, F it. Let's get out of here. So I turn around. I'm looking for our escape route. And this dude who's like 7'5" behind me was like, "Hey, yo, I see some action up there." And I would turn back around, and boom, the floodgates open. They let everybody in, and we made it inside. And we were so pumped to make it inside. But clearly, by the story, we made it inside by pick 6. So we're not doing the interview. We're not doing the questions. We're just trying to get food, explore the land, and get to the stage to experience the draft, which is ultimately what we came there for. So, and it was fun. We had a great time. I'll let Chris talk about his experience with that too, before we dive into it. But like, that is why we did not do that kind of video. That's kind of the circumstance that happened. But it doesn't mean we can't do that next year in Pittsburgh. We'll see.
Say what?
But we had a good time at the draft. Chris, why don't you tell people about kind of our experience like inside the draft, actually watching the stage?
Dude, it was absolutely unbelievable. It's kind of like everything you dream it would be, in my opinion. Once you actually get inside, I had no idea what to expect. Obviously, we were enraged when we got there and couldn't be let in. But I don't know. Essentially, I think the best way to kind of describe the setting of it is like, you're waiting outside the gates to almost like a state fair. There's a bunch of pop up stands, different places to get alcohol, place to get food. People are just playing games inside. It's like a crazy environment. They opened up the stadium, not only for like concession wise, but people were live watching the draft from within, Lambeau Field, which is kind of cool. They're playing it up on the Megatron. But that's not actually the Megatron. But that's not actually where the draft was at all. It was actually next to the stadium, for those of you that don't know that, in this huge, huge, huge space. And it was kind of unbelievable. Dom and I, we got our food. We were determined to get up in the action, get as close to the stadium as possible. And kind of surprisingly, we get in there and there's like this initial wall of people that are blocking our entrance in. But then we're like, oh God, this is going to be packed. We're going to be way back here. You can't see anything. You got past that wall of people. There were so many open spots. People were so spread out.
Just little pockets here and there.
Yeah. We just bobbed and weaved our ways. And the thing is too, that was kind of amazing to me was the fact that every time a team made their selection, more and more fans left, which was baffling to me. I and maybe just because Dom and I are such football fans, like, yeah, we're Steeler fans, but like we're football fans, so we wanted to sit there through everything. But like, yeah, especially once the Packer pick was done, we're basically up there,
yeah,
right up,
almost
as
on the
close
front
to the stage. It was incredible, and what a cool experience for it to be completely free to go to these things. Like, hands down, 100% would do this again in a heartbeat.
Which is why it's free, which is why they jack up the prices. So I've seen people in Pittsburgh complain already. How come hotels for that weekend are already at $900? They are. Chris and I had to stay an hour and a half out of Green Bay to find an affordable hotel, and parking was $100. So we parked 2 miles away from the stadium in a residential neighborhood and walked for 20 minutes.
I would park further. I'm a cheap ass. I'm not spending money.
Yeah. No, at all. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area wanting to go to the draft next year and you live there, that's awesome. Parking, don't park. Maybe take an Uber. Who knows what you got to do. If you're traveling to Pittsburgh, like Chris and I are planning to do, don't take our hotel rooms. But here's a little tip: maybe don't take a hotel room in Pittsburgh because it's not going to go out for you.
Or if you do take our hotel room, maybe offer up your home to us if you live there for free. That would be golden.
Ben, Spence, talking
Big
to you.
Fans. Have us on the podcast, Ben.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep moving along. We have a lot to talk about. We haven't done this for a couple of weeks, obviously, but this is our 100th episode, so I want to get everything in while we can. We've had a lot of just some busy weeks too, with some parties and other things we've had going on. So let's talk about the draft. We're going to recap it. I'm going to kind of set you up, Chris. You kind of give me a quick synopsis. Good, bad, what you thought about the player. Maybe you're just like, that's right. Like give me a quick synopsis of what you thought about it. And I will give you guys a quick preview of a joke that we had written down for each team. I'm not going to give you all the jokes because I want to save them for potentially next year if we do this live. Sound good?
Sound great.
So first up, Tennessee did not trade away their pick. They picked who everybody thought who was going to pick, and it was Cam Ward with the first overall pick.
Quick synopsis. This was like the least hyped first guy ever picked in the draft. For me, I was like, oh, cool, Cam Ward. Everyone knows he's going to get picked, but like, is he really that good? Who knows? That's kind of my thoughts around it. It's like, yeah, it's hands down, he's the guy, but I don't know. It was very lackluster, in my opinion.
And as far as the joke side, Tennessee was a tough franchise to make jokes for because they are a joke inherently. So the best I had was, "Are you from Tennessee? Because you're the only Tennessee fan I see here in
Nice,
the
dude.
vicinity." Next up, we had pick number 2 was the Cleveland Browns, and insanity started immediately. Who traded away that pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for their second round pick and the next year's first. They have 2 first round picks, giving up Travis Hunter to go to Jacksonville, who obviously picked up Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and here's another one where again I feel like my own personal opinion is going to weigh in here, but amazing talent, dude. Hella athletic. Obviously, he's a Heisman winner, but that's mostly because he played on both sides of the ball 100% of the time. I don't think that's going to happen. If he's a wide receiver, he's wide receiver 2 on Jacksonville. I'm just putting that out there. And maybe he's in certain packages. Who knows? Dude's a good athlete. I don't know if he's worth the second pick, but that's just me.
Interview question for the Jacksonville Jaguars fan: what shade of teal do you cry into every season?
Very nice.
Oh my God. Up next, the third pick was the Giants, and kind of kept going in order with what we thought. I do want to point out too that whether you believe me or not, Chris is my testimony, but he's biased, obviously, with a brother. But I did get 20 of these picks right before they were called. I was crushing it. So if
Dude
you
was
happened to watch
insane.
our stream last year, where we ate hot wings, I would have survived. Maybe I would have made it,
I
but
wouldn't
not.
have. This was my least prepared year ever, and I was so ashamed about it.
But anyways, Giants got picked up Abdul Carter, edge at Penn State.
Absolute animal. What a pick. This was highly predicted. I think he's going to be insanely talented. Good pick for the Giants.
For the Giants, we talked about with Russell Wilson being there. I'm going to say this one because Russell Wilson might not be there next year. So we had a bunch of Giants. You know how he says Broncos country, let's ride. We came up with our own. We say, suppose that won't work. Well, what could Russell Wilson say his new catchphrase could be? New York Nation, let's crime. Giant Nation, forget about a winning season. Or Giant Nation, Giant Nation, free 5-0 which
Oh,
is my favorite one. Um, uh, Up next is the Patriots picking up a tackle to shore up that old line with Drake May, who had a sneaky good draft. The Patriots did, and they pick up Will Campbell at LSU.
Will Campbell, insane talent. Great offensive lineman. Perfect for Drake May. Protect the man at all costs. Patriots could be a problem next year, including their later picks in the draft with all the wide receiver help they got.
As far as a joke goes, this might not work next year, but in terms of this year, I was going to say, oh, Patriot fan, another year with a top 5 pick. What do you think is the biggest factor missing the most from the Patriots' glory days? 1, Bill Belichick. 2, Tom Brady. Or 3, cheating.
Who knows?
I'm going to say this one too. I said the Patriots have really struggled fielding a top wide receiver lately. Do they need to go back to players with more of a lacrosse background, if you catch my drift?
Hmm. Maybe from the
The
Green
white,
Bay area.
the whites. Next up is the Browns, who Chris and I were thinking, wow, they got rid of Travis Hunter, who, as you just heard, Chris doesn't think is a generational guy, but a lot of people do. And we were like, well, they traded out that, they got picks. Well, now they're going to get Ashton Genty because they're not bringing Nick Chubb back. Man, this sucks. They're going to get Ashton Genty, who's a insane prospect, but instead they did the Brown thing and grabbed Mason Graham, has been puking at rookie minicamp. Tell people about Mason Graham, Chris.
Damn, I was gonna call him the Vom Man, but
Do
yeah,
it.
the Vom Man. The dude is puking all over the place. He is so out of shape. It is crazy. He wants to learn from Myles Garrett on how to be the best. The best at what? Smacking people with helmets? Get that shit out of here. Mason Graham is not going to do anything in Cleveland. I'm sorry. What a dumpster of a pick. It's probably fine, but like realistically, I don't think he's that fantastic in my opinion.
Tons of jokes for the Browns, but one that I can say this year, maybe not next year, is if you had to pick a starter for this year, would you choose the guy with small hands or the guy with massage oil on it?
It's ironic because they're the same. Wait.
Wait, what?
What? Kenny Pickett does that? No.
Next up is the Raiders, and they picked Ashton Genty, which we all thought they would. Going to Las Vegas. Nothing more to say there. What do you think about that, Chris?
Generational talent. Dude's insane. What a pick by the Raiders. Glad he fell to them and not the Browns.
My joke for the Raiders, which I could use again, is for the Raiders' first round pick. What do you think the front office cares about more? How fast their 40 time is, or how big their criminal record is?
Wow.
Zinger. Up next is the Jets, who picked up a tackle to protect Justin Fields, Armand Membu.
I don't know what to say about this guy. He's a big boy, gonna protect Fields and make sure he stays in the pocket. Good, great pick.
And for the Jets, I did. Do you think Justin Fields can be the guy, or are you holding out for Jordan Love in 2036?
Nice.
The next up is was it Carolina? Yep, Carolina Panthers, who I also got right. People were like, "This is a big surprise," but your boy got it right. They got Tortilla McMillan and Tetero McMillan.
The true number one wide receiver in the draft. I do say so. Sorry, Travis Hunter, but like, dude's insane. 6'4", big body guy, amazing control. I'm excited for Bryce Young, kind of. If there's a year for him to, show his stuff, you got weapons now, big boy. Sorry, small boy.
Small boy. My joke for them, all of them are pretty general, so I can use them all. But do they call it the Carolina Panthers because neither the North or South Carolina want to take accountability for this team? Could be.
They do
I was in North Carolina. I didn't see a single Panther for like propaganda anywhere. So,
not since 2015.
The Saints, they pick for real. They pick up Kelvin Banks Jr. tackle out of Texas, and not Shador in the first round. We'll talk about that potentially.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what a time. They showed Shador on the screen, and I said, good, we didn't get him. And neither did the Saints. So yeah, Kelvin Banks, solid offensive tackle. Tyler Shuggy McMoogie will appreciate that now that Carr's retired. Spoiler, Carr's retired.
This joke won't work next year if we say it, so I was going to say, in honor of the Pope passing, will they announce the Saints pick with colored smoke? Classic.
Mm-hmm.
But the Pope's from Chicago. But the Pope is from the next team, Chicago. The Chicago Bears. Pope. Picking up Colston Loveland ahead of Tyler Warren, which is kind of a surprise. Tight end, top 10. What do you think about that, Chris?
Big shocker in the draft. I remember the entire draft was shook. Everyone said, "What? Not Tyler Warren?" I was there. I lived it. I have credibility. You don't. Anyway, he's a good talent. I think him and Cole Kmet will stack up.
Can't use this joke next year, but I wrote down, for Chicago Bear fans, is being in Lambeau making your skin itch, or is it comforting knowing it's like your daddy's house? Next up, you got 49ers, who needed defensive help all across the board, and they pick up Michael Williams, an edge out of Georgia.
Second edge off the board. I was about to ignore Abdul Carter, but yeah, Michael Williams, a great talent out of Georgia. Georgia always has stacked defenses. Pairing up on the other side of Bosa, I think that could be a scary combo right there if Bosa stays healthy.
One of the jokes we wrote down was how awesome that Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, is going to get a big contract with a team that is now also irrelevant. Shots fired. Up next is the Cowboys, who pick a guard, which was very shocking, and Tyler Booker.
I don't want to talk about it realistically because at the time I said, what a loss. They should have got a wide receiver.
We have a lot of jokes for Dallas, but I'm going to read my worst one. And it is Dak is a big advocate for mental health awareness. I applaud him. Every time he yells, "Here we go," I become an advocate of ending it all.
Oh,
Up next is the Dolphins, who pick up Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan, someone we looked at.
arguably as talented as Mason Graham, which is not someone who jumps off the screen for me. Sorry, Kenneth Grant. You're a good guy. You'll block holes. That's about it.
I have this one might not be useful next year because he might be gone. So I said, which number will be greater this upcoming season? The amount of touchdowns Tyreek has, or the amount of babies he has? Bada boom. Having sex raw joke. Up next is Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren, Colts linebacker out of Penn State. Or linebacker? Tight end. I'm so sorry.
I don't know what happened, but my I can't hear you anymore. But you said Tyler Warren, which uh heavily predicted to go to the Colts. It sounds like it was the guy that they wanted, and they got him. Thank you to the Bears.
Oh. Oh no, I'm still good over here. A joke we had for the Colts was, let's see. Oh boy. That's a bad joke, but I might use it again next year live. As owner of the Colts, do you think Jim Irsay has a say about drafting players for the trenches? I know he knows a good line or two when he sees one. That's a cocaine joke. Up next, you got the Atlanta Falcons drafting finally a defensive edge guy in Jalen Walker, Georgia.
Yeah, Jalen Walker, another Georgia product. Dude is another insane talent. I think he'll make some big moves. Just kind of a name that I thought of when I was like, wow, that just seems like an Atlanta Falcon. You know, you ever have those names before where it's just like, yeah, that makes sense. Jalen Walker.
Also gotta say this bad joke because he might not be there next year, and maybe I'll bleep it out in post. I'll try to. But is this the first time the phrase "getting fucked by cousins" is used negatively in Atlanta or the South? Who knows? Up next, you got the Arizona Cardinals, who drafted Walter Nolan, another defensive tackle we looked at out of Ole Miss. A lot of talent from Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss. Big body guy, but potentially some character concerns. I'll take this one, Chris, while you're figuring out your technical issues. They picked up that defensive tackle, and we're trying to think, well, who's going to be left for the Steelers? But we still have one name at the board on our minds. We'll see if he gets there. For the Arizona Cardinals, I said, if you could help Kyler Murray with his game by picking one option, would you have him grow 6 inches or ban Call of Duty? Up next, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who picked Shamar Stewart, who just needed defense like crazy. They needed just defensive help, and they picked Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M, an edge rusher. While they pick for the Bengals, tons and tons of jokes, obviously. Shamar Stewart's probably going to be a good pick. He didn't get a lot of sacks in college, but they didn't really use him in a way to pick up sacks. I think that's like probably the biggest difference. So I think he's going to be probably pretty good. But the Bengals have this weird contract situation, so it sounds like he's not going to play at all until it gets resolved. I don't know, man. Weird stuff going on with Cincinnati, like always. I said, let's see, what's the one I can do? Oh yeah, here we go. I think I've got a good nickname for the current Bengals. What about Hang Loose? Because they hang 40 points on everybody, but they also get ran through by every team in the NFL. It's fun and gross. Up next, you got the Seattle Seahawks, who actually do get a guard finally. NDSU legend, Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel at Seattle, going to, Gray Zabel at NDSU, going to Seattle as a guard. They need some line help. For the Seattle Seahawks, I said, in your opinion, do you think moving on from Geno for Darnold will help you go from mid to slightly above mid? Potentially. After that, you have the Buccaneers, who drafted, surprisingly, Emeka Egbuka, who I mean, you can make an argument it could be wide receiver 4 that they drafted in the 4th round. I know that obviously Chris Godwin is coming back from injury and Mike Evans is maybe out his way out the door, but still kind of seems like a weird spot to draft receiver in round 1. Regardless, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I put a joke I had for them was how excited are you to win your division this year at 8-9?
It's just solid. Yeah, confusing pick, especially when they drafted, I'm pretty sure, a wide receiver at their first pick last year. So
No,
I don't
not
know.
the first pick. But
No, no,
you're
no.
thinking about Jalen McMillan.
McMillan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still a highly drafted wide receiver. And now
I,
they have 4 dudes.
Another surprising pick, but maybe not a bad one, because if he would have made it to our pick, I would have thought about maybe drafting him as well. But the Broncos got Jahdae Barron, cornerback, potentially slot cornerback out of Texas. Broncos who needed a lot of offensive help. What do you think about that one, Chris?
I feel like they didn't really do their part in giving Bo Nix some additional weapons, which was kind of like the key for them. I know they have Cortland Sutton, but outside of him, who do they really got? You're getting a beast on the other side of Pat Surtain. If he's the top guy, go for him. But I don't know. It was kind of a head scratcher for me.
For the Broncos, we wrote down what hurt worse, getting blown out by Russell Wilson or hearing Russell Wilson say Broncos country, let's ride, and never making the playoffs. Up next is, speaking of Russell Wilson, up next is the Steelers, who got rid of Russell Wilson. And you got Derek
Harmon.
Hampton out of Oregon. A nice,
Harmon.
great pick again for Derek Hampton. We were pumped. It was between him and Shador. We clearly wanted sorry, I just keep saying Hampton. I'm so sorry. We really wanted Derek Harmon out of Oregon. And we'll talk about all of our draft picks. We'll get more in depth about, the emotional stuff about it. But pumped to have that guy on our team. We reviewed his tape. We got that one right. Just quick thoughts about seeing that drafted live.
Derek Harmon, man. Can't say enough good things about this guy. Obviously, I think in the moment, you look at him as a pick and you're like, we're filling a positional need, but it's nothing really exciting, I guess, as like a splash pick would be. But the more things that came out about him after the draft, hearing the things about his mom, like kind of person that he is, it's a hard guy not to root for. And I'm 100% a fan of Derek Harmon. I think going back and watching his tape, the guy that we covered, he's a beast of a football player. He's going to learn under Cam Hayward, which is going to be amazing for his development. I see him rotating in there and already getting some playing time this season. I'm excited for him. It's going to be great.
For a joke for the Steelers fans, I wrote there tons of stuff material we could write about the Steelers fans because it's kind of a hard joke right now. But I wrote down, what would you rather hear after a big loss? Accountability, maybe, or painting a barn with a broad brush, or the fuck Tomlin says after his interviews. Up next is the Los Angeles Chargers, who also had a really surprisingly pick. Speaking of Hampton, went or Marion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina, after already signing our boy Najee Harris over free
Break my
agency.
heart, dude.
What do you think about that pick?
I hated it. I mean, like, dude's a good talent. Harbaugh loves his running game. Yeah, that's why he did Joe Alt last year. But like, dude, when are people going to stop disrespecting Najee Harris? Come back to my team, Najee. I'll take you with open arms, please. I miss you so much.
I wrote.
That's all I gotta say.
My joke for the Chargers fans would, what would you trust more, Quentin Johnson catching a football or Monte Teo telling you he has a girlfriend? Remember Monte Teo, the girlfriend debacle? Chris didn't. Anyways, moving on. We had we were there for the Packers pick. It was electric. I called they would draft a receiver, and they did, going against the 2002, all the way back to 2002. So they did that, and they drafted Matthew Golden, who we did review on the channel, out of Texas.
What an electric pick. The crowd erupted. And the dude who announced it, a part owner, whatever he was, was just like really building up the audience. You know, what a great wide receiver to get and a star talent for Green Bay. I'm really happy for them to finally get a wide receiver in round one. Aaron Rodgers was watching the draft and he was like, "Are you?" Well, sorry, Rodgers, because you're a Steeler now. So get used to it, buddy.
And the Packers are one of the most historic franchises in the NFL. Lambeau Field has been around forever. So I wanted to ask the questions to fans. Do you think the championships pre-civil rights should count? And are the bathrooms still segregated?
Oh, I
Up
can
next is the Minnesota
I can
Vikings. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
confirm.
What do you want to say?
I can confirm. Walking in that stadium, yes.
They were not.
Yeah. Ooh.
Which is good. They've had a lot of time to fix that for sure. So that's good. Up next is Minnesota. They picked up a guard, which a little surprising to me. I mean, it's whatever. I understand Minnesota likes their linemen, or they wanted the linemen, but it's not a bad pick. It's whatever. Donovan Jackson, guard from Ohio State.
Minnesota had basically done their draft in the offseason with all the free agency pickups. They had really no team needs other than maybe offensive line and a few other things like safety, but like realistically not. So I don't hate the pick. I think it's smart. Protect JJ. Um, you know, a solid value out of Donovan Jackson.
My question for Viking fans was, how many more back-breaking defeats do the Vikings need to suffer until it goes from skull to scoliosis?
Ugh, my
I like that one.
spine.
Up next was a trade. It was supposed to be the Rams, and they traded down with the Giants to get Jackson Dart, Chris's homeboy, quarterback from Ole Miss. What did you talk about? Tell the people, Chris.
The clapper is what they call him after the Gruden video. But dude, man, I think Jackson Dart, if given the opportunity, will be a really good talent. I liked his college tape. Why did he have to go to them and not us? But I digress. And we got the better draft. I'm saying it now to Cope.
Oh, another Giant joke for you that Chris wrote. When do Giant fans only start saying it's a rebuilding year? Week 2 or week 3?
Thanks.
Up next was that was actually the Houston Texans. I'm so sorry that traded with the Giants. And then it was the Rams who traded out of that spot for the Falcons, who gave up way too much. Gave the Rams their first round pick for next year. Gave the Rams more power in a quarterback class. And they drafted another edge, James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee.
Make it make sense. I guess he's good, but like, I was confused.
Yep. I don't have another Atlanta joke for you. We're going to save them. Moving on, we have the Ravens. They get a classic Ravens pick. A stud falls all the way to them at 27, and they pick up Malachi Starks out of Georgia. Safety.
Yeah, we can never win. There's always the best dudes available that goes to Baltimore. And screw them. They always draft so always.
Don't really have a good joke for Baltimore Ravens because they're such a good team, but we wrote down, how does it feel to be the best team in the division, but also be 2-7 against the Steelers? So yeah, F you. That's how it works. Also, Malachi Stark's probably going to be starting this season, since the safety that they really like, that Darius Washington, just tore his Achilles in conditioning. So we'll probably be starting. Next, the Lions draft Tyleik Williams, a defensive tackle we really, really liked from Ohio State.
Yeah, it was amazing how many people had no idea who Tyleik Williams was at the draft, because the amount of Lions fans there that were like, "What? Who's that?" I'll tell you who that is. He's a dog, man. He's arguably one of the best defensive tackles in that draft class. Mark my word. Pin this tweet. I'm standing by it. He is so good. Lions, you got a dude at the pick, what, 28? Yeah.
8. Are the Lions really good, or did they just win games by blowing out the knees off their opponent's best players? Question we were going to ask, and probably get beat up in the process. The Commanders drafted Josh Connolly Jr., a tackle out of Oregon, who they picked up another tackle in the offseason. So they're shoring up their O-line for their big quarterback. Had a great year.
Again, smart move. Protect Jane Daniels. You saw what he could do. I would do the exact same thing. Smart move by Washington.
Then we kind of didn't have a lot of time to write down these other jokes for these teams. We kind of ran out of time, so I'll think of one off the dome. Um, for your average Washington Commander fan, what day is going to be more memorable? Super Bowl win or January 6th? Zinger.
Yeah.
Buffalo Bills, they drafted quarterback Maxwell Harrison. Kind of a surprise to me. I don't know how good he's actually going to be, but seems like a
Yeah, I
nice
was going to
dude.
say,
Chris?
after watching his interactions, it seemed like a personality hire to me. I mean, I'm not saying or discrediting his talent. I think he's a good talent. I just, everyone kind of felt like it was maybe a reach for the position and knowing the guys that were still out there. But who knows? He's on Buffalo's defense, which has been pretty good. So we'll see what happens.
For Buffalo Bills, I would say, how many tables do you have to break before your heart stops breaking from
Nice.
playoff
Very
losses?
nice.
Probably a lot. Next, the Eagles traded ahead one spot with the Chiefs for some reason, but picked up an absolute stud. The Eagles, like the Ravens, keep getting away with highway robbery with absolutely amazing players, and pick up Jahad Campbell, a linebacker out of
Sources
Alabama.
told me that they were really upset that the Georgia linebacker got taken earlier since that's all the Eagles tend to draft. So they said, you know what? Roll Tide, baby. Let's get Jahad Campbell. And they did. What a beast he is. And of course, he ends up right in the Super Bowl champions' grimy little hands. Good for you, Philly.
Joke for Philly. I guess. Do you think you deserve the success for how awful you are? There you go. Last is the Chiefs. Chiefs in the last pick in the draft, they picked Josh Simmons out of Ohio State, tackle. Really good, solid pickup that I figured would drop to them that low.
At the time when they traded, I was confused as to why they felt the need to trade back, but I'm now coming to realize they could not really cope with losing the Super Bowl. So they felt it was the next best thing to take the Super Bowl champions spot in the draft to feel something again.
Josh Simmons potentially could have been the best tackle in the draft, but had an injury. Came back from that's a really kind of a boomer bust pick that could really work out for the Chiefs as he keeps healing. Quickly, Chris, let's go through our total draft picks from the draft. We talked about Derek Carmen. We talked about how much we liked him. We like his heart more. If you didn't hear about Derek Carmen, his mother unfortunately passed away the night of him being drafted. Hearts out to her. Rest in peace, truly. And Derek, we're the Steelers Nation is behind you, man. Pulling for you and hoping you have the time to heal and grieve and whatever you need to do to it's a tough situation. Absolutely. So I do want to give my respects out to Derek's mother and to Derek himself. Do that, but he's a great kid. He's been at rookie minicamp. Hearing him talk, he's poised. He's a strong guy to go through what he's gone through and to still be here playing the sport he loves. So tough to have a great day and the worst day of your life be on the same day, but um, kudos to him, and I'm hoping for a bright future from him. Next was Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. Not the running back pick I fell in love with, but also didn't think you dropped that low to the third round pick. Pretty pumped about that, Chris, right?
Caleb Johnson, obviously a running back that we looked at here in the previous weeks leading up to the draft. I really liked him. I thought the dude was insanely talented. He broke off so many like huge runs, which I think is what really attracted the Steelers to him. Not that Najee was incapable, it's just the explosive run rate really did not come as highly frequently with him. And so I think they're trying to change that with Caleb Johnson's play style and ability in the game. Uh, as Dom mentioned, was he a zone runner? Is
Yes,
so he
which is
fits
a
a
scheme we
lot
run.
better with Arthur Smith's offense. Probably another reason why we picked him. I think everyone was surprised that he fell that far. So a great value pick, a really talented running back. I'm excited to see how he does. We'll see if he ends up sitting behind Jalen Warren. I would imagine he will just because that's how the Steelers are, but I hope he doesn't because I don't think Jalen Warren is a first string back personally. He's really
Yep,
talented, just not the guy.
yep. And then next was the fourth round, and I thought actually with Shador dropping to the fourth round, I thought, you know what, maybe we take a chance on the kid at this point. At the fourth round, I'm working myself up to it. I was thinking I had to work myself around to draft him in the first, but in the fourth, I was like, okay, we can work myself around and do it. But they did not take him, and you know what? They didn't take a receiver either, which is also very questionable, especially now considering our circumstances. They took Jack Sawyer, edge out of Ohio State. Captain Jack. Listen, questionable pick to me, but like we always say, Chris, when they're a Steeler now, so time to root for them, right? You can't go wrong with edge depth. With TJ and Highsmith, you never know when they're going to get hurt. Nick Herbig there, so we'll root for him while he's on the team. I think he's got a good character. I think everyone they drafted has really good character, to be honest, and good leader traits. I just don't know if it was the smartest pick at the time, but he's on the team now. So
See, and maybe he's a good counterpiece to Nick Herbig. I feel like Herbig is more of the technicality guy. He's learned a lot under TJ. TJ obviously being the full package, having the handwork and the strength. It seems like Jack Sawyer's more of the strength guy, likes to run past people with just his brute muscle and everything. So it might be an interesting guy to get in there as a rotational piece. As Dom was saying, we had Herbig. We saw what happened in previous seasons when Watt got hurt or, when these guys got taken out. I think Jack Sawyer is a good talent. It was a head scratcher of a move when there's wide receivers on there. And especially if we knew what was going to come in like the passing weeks with George. But, um, you know, I'm welcome to the team, Jack. That's all I got.
Round five was they drafted Wyatt Black, defensive lineman out of Iowa, who we did not talk about in length at our episode, but we did mention him because he did have a pre-draft visit. Will he play nose tackle? Who knows? The team has said he won't. I think he should. We'll find out because I'm going to keep moving along just for time's sake.
Yep.
Up next, we got Will Howard, quarterback from Ohio State, a guy I really, really wanted. Super pumped to get him in round 6. And ever since then, have just liked him more and more and more. We have to keep in mind he's a round 6 quarterback, so he's not going to get the opportunities that you would think, but it's not impossible either. I hope he does get his chance to play. I do really like the kid, but you also have to keep their temptations kind of pulled back for being where he drafted at. But he's tall, got a strong arm. I liked Will Howard when we did his tape, so we'll see there. Do you want to say something, Chris, real quick on Will Howard, or not really?
Just he's a great talent. I'm surprised he fell as far as he did. I'm excited about him. I want to see him play personally, especially if we don't get Rodgers. We'll see what happens. I'm just ready for preseason for Will Howard.
And then classic, another couple 7th round picks that I thought there was other people on the board to grab instead, and they just grab people that I didn't think we need, but doesn't mean that they're bad, because again they're Steelers now, so it's time to root for them. They grabbed Carson Bruner, linebacker out of Washington, who actually had a pretty solid tape when I watched that. Also son of Steelers tight end Mark Bruner, so that's very cool. And then they drafted Dante Kent, cornerback, punt returner out of Central Michigan. AB's alma mater. Oh, pardon me. He's he's very, very fast. I think that's kind of main reason we got him, and he's the definition of boom and bust because he had like the most pass deflections in college career and also the most broken plays given up at once. So he was kind of a quick pick to get there when they could have maybe got other people. They got a slug of UFDAs, a couple who could end up making the team, especially Sebastian Castro out of Iowa. But above all, I think really solid draft, and I was feeling really pumped and excited again until a week and a half later when the Steelers made the decision to trade George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. A move that I saw the rumor of at night. My heart sank. I woke up the next day. It was an official trade for a third-round pick in next year's draft. I wanted to see DK and George together. I was upset. I was distraught. It didn't make a lot of sense. And I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it because Chris and I have ranted. I think a lot of people have ranted. But I did not like the move. I do want to point out, though, I do get it. I really do, because clearly they weren't going to sign him to another contract, even though I think they could have. I think people were saying they couldn't afford another contract. I disagree. I think they could have afforded another contract. I just don't think they're going to. There clearly were people were butting heads. To some degree, it sounds like Tomlin was the one who made the call, not Omar Khan. But regardless, I still like George. We advocated for George a lot in this channel. We previewed him before the draft. We love GP over here. So, but they weren't going to give him a contract, and so it's smart to get the assets that you can. Nobody was going to give higher than a third-round pick. Cowboys were high enough to get a third-round pick, and he doesn't even want a contract extension there. So they give us a third-round pick for a 5-month rental, and maybe they give him a contract extension or his free agency. So, I mean, in that sense, it's a good move, but it's also like kind of a we're giving up move, because you could have had GP and DK on the field at the same time, especially if you're going to get Aaron Rodgers. Let's say Aaron Rodgers comes in and plays well, Chris. Then let's say Aaron Rodgers comes in and they're like 4-2, 5-1, 6-0. You can be like, yeah, it's great and all, but they could have had GP in this equation, and they could have been going crazier. So I don't know. It just really sucks. We really like GP, and it's a big bummer, man. It really is.
GP, in my opinion, is a better wide receiver than DK. It would have been really awesome to see them together. I know people see DK as the one and George as the two, but I think George was a remarkable talent. He's going to do such crazy things in Dallas as the wide receiver 2 with CeeDee Lamb. It's going to be
insane.
Filthy. Still rooting for him. I think, it makes no sense. It almost feels like we have this expectation to lose now, which if we do, I don't know, maybe we'll get Arch Manning. I have no idea, but we seem so unserious, and we're back to square one with our wide receiver problem. So we'll see what happens.
It feels like we're 1 foot in and 1 foot out. We're competing and we're not competing, and it doesn't make any sense. I think it's the most frustrating thing. It feels like that's why the season doesn't seem very exciting, and kind of pushing us. It's kind of felt like the straw that broke the camel's back on why we don't want to do this podcast anymore. To be honest, it's really tiring to get on here every week and just complain about the Steelers, and then you might be thinking, well, don't complain and just think of a positive segment to do.
But how can you?
Yeah, you're right. Well, I was gonna say, which you're right, but like we just don't have the time either. We really don't.
Well, so also being realistic about it and everything. Sorry, I don't mean to take
no, it's okay.
the stage here, but like Dom and I will always love and root for the Steelers. We want them to succeed. That will never waver. But at the same time, it's tiring seeing the same thing happen year in and year out. We can go on streaks of winning, and it'll be awesome. And yeah, we'll be positive then. But it's also called being a realist, and we do nothing to adapt to this ever-changing game and compete with teams like the Eagles, the Chiefs. We're basically, putting this, emphasis on, oh, well, we just have to execute better. No, we don't have to execute better. We have to be a better team. We have to adapt with the league. It's hard to stay positive. And that's all it is. It's like if we were changing, doing things, sure, but it's not what it is, and it's not how it has been.
Yeah, Tomlin's still the coach. The offensive scheme is still bad. They still want to do it the way they've been trying to win the game. Arthur Smith II sucks as an owner. It just doesn't really feel like it matters, I guess. And we don't want to come on here every week and complain about the same things we've been complaining about since 2 years ago. There just isn't a change. So I'm still going to watch the season, of course. I feel like I'm going to watch more college football this year just to pick up on a quarterback prospect. Even though I do love Will Howard, I just don't think he'll get the chance. Because if you remember us talking about Brock Purdy, when people were like they should have drafted him instead of Kenny Pickett, Brock Purdy wouldn't have got a chance here. And we'll see if Will Howard does, especially if Aaron Rodgers gets signed. Might be unlikely. So, we're still going to watch the team, and I still love. I mean, I'll get excited again come July. I'm sure, for the thing. But the
Absolutely.
GP trade really kind of diminished my value of the season, and it hurted it a lot. And maybe they trade for another receiver, and I kind of get that back, but because they have like 12 picks next year. But until then, kind of is what it is, man. And see you later, GP. Hope you do well in Dallas. But that was kind of a big bummer. Lastly, today was the schedule release day. So this has been a long podcast, but this is the final bit of news. You can go through this kind of quickly. And I think this is going to be quickly because I think Chris and I usually take an optimistic standpoint to this. But as you just heard us rant about, not much to be optimistic about. Not to mention that I think the schedule was made in mind that the Steelers are going to sign Aaron Rodgers. And I do believe that happens. I really do. But with us not coming back to talk about it when it happens, we're not going to. I'll tell you that right now. We're not going to make a podcast when it happens. Let's go through the schedule, assuming that he's not on the team because he isn't right now.
That's good.
But I think the schedule was made in mind with him being on it. I truly do. Like there's certain matchups in the way where they're played. I mean the Green Bay being played on prime time is like they're expecting Aaron Rodgers to be on the squad.
Yeah.
The first game being against the Jets, they expect Aaron Rodgers to be on the squad. So I think there's an expectation that he'll be there. I do think he will be there, but let's talk about it like he's not, right?
Okay.
So let's go through it. Let's go week 1 at Jets. I can give a little bit of spiel. Maybe we can do win or loss, but I was also going to say is week 1's tricky. It's weird. It's always a 50-50 coin flip. I really do believe that every single year. It's if this was played later, I would hot take say we lose this game because I think the Jets roster is very good. I think Fields is going to have a good year with them. But being week 1, even with Rudolph, I think they could find a way to win. The 50-50 toss-up could go either way. I'll say win on the optimistic side.
I'm right there with you. You never know what could happen. Teams are rusty. They're just starting to, get going. So I think that's going to be our biggest saving grace in this. I think Justin Fields is going to do really well, but hopefully not against us. But yeah, I think we can squeak out a win for this one.
The next game is a home opener against the Seahawks. Trigger warning to when Big Ben messed up his arm in 2019 against the Seahawks. But that game is going to be a little tough too. The Seahawks have really revamped their offense. They got Cooper Kupp after giving us away DK Metcalf. They've picked up another receiver. Sam Darnold, though, is a big caveat there, and I don't know if I believe in Sam Darnold because I think Minnesota was his reason of success, to be honest. Is that a win? Oof, also tough to say.
Yes.
I think it's a real 50-50 shot. I am going to say yes as well. But I think it's like I wouldn't be shocked if they lost that game. The 50-50 shot, I think.
That one's home, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, I think with it being home, I'm also not super scared of Sam Darnold. Seattle, I think, can be a good team. I just feel like we're going to win this game.
Now, this schedule is going to start off really well, even though we just talked about how bad this is, but just keep in mind, it's not going to end that way. But week 3 is the Patriots. We've lost against them as a bad team the past couple of years, and I don't know why we keep losing to them. It's in New England. But because they're a bad team, although Drake May could be better, they did get some pieces to be better draft-wise. I still say we win. Our defense is a lot for a quarterback like that to kind of handle, and it's a new coach too. Who's to say how any of that goes, right? I will say we win based on that principle alone, but I do think they're going to be a tougher team this year for sure, like a 7-10 squad, maybe 8-9.
Drake May could look really, really, really good, and I kind of anticipate it for this year with the weapons and protection that he's getting. However, still early in the year, I just have this feeling that we will win that game.
So it puts us at 3-0. The four
Oh, just wait.
game four. I know. Game four is in Ireland against the Minnesota Vikings, our home squad here. Um, this is, I think realistically it's a loss, but I do want to paint the picture for you that I, again, coin flip it, could see a win because I do think Ireland is like 99% Steelers fans. I do think it'll be rocking Pittsburgh there, and it could go in their favor there from a hostility environment standpoint to potentially win that game. But I think the biggest thing about that game is that comes down to JJ McCarthy, right? So I think
Yes.
it's really easy to put. I think it's really easy to put a loss here for sure. But in a certain sense, I'm thinking maybe they could pull it out. Maybe I don't know.
Here's the thing: if there's any script to the NFL, do you think they're really going to do it with the Steelers in Ireland for the first time when like that's where the majority of Steeler fan base is? No, they
Right.
can't do that. Yes, I agree. I think it's really going to depend on JJ and how he's going to do. At the same time, you have to as an organization win this game, and if not, fire Rooney. There, I said it.
There, I said it. Then they have a bye week, week 5, which sucks, but we're not looking for aspirations here. Then you got week 6 against the Cleveland Browns, who they look like they're going to be hot trash. Could be it's at home, could be against Kenny Pickett going back to Pittsburgh. I don't care who's starting. I'm saying a win there. I say we sweep the Browns. I don't care because I hate them.
Win. I'm right there with you. 5-0.
That's actually 6-0. Oh, you're right. It's 5-0. It's
Like
5-0. No, it's 5-0 because they have a bye week in week 5, which is crazy. And now it's going to get bad. Now we're going to go to Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, I do think we split these series, but because it's in Cincinnati, I'm going to say a loss.
L.
Yeah. Then we play Green Bay on Sunday night at home with Aaron Rodgers. I would say win. With Mason Rudolph, I'm going to say loss.
Yeah, I'm also going to say loss.
We do play pretty decent primetime games at home, but recently we haven't been, I would say. That was my argument last year. I was like, oh, we win those primetime games at home. But last year I guess we won the New York ones, but we lost the Dallas one. It's kind of 50-50, right? So at home, primetime could win that game because that's kind of more of our MO. But Green Bay's, I think, a really strong team. So I think it's a loss. Just 2 losses back to back. You got Colts at home. Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones, they both suck. I'm taking us, even though we have lost to the Colts recently as well too. I'll take
I'm
us
also
at home
taking
on
us.
that one. 2 losses so far, but then you go Sunday Night Football again in LA against the Chargers. I think they've only gotten stronger. The defense has gotten better. They have them more weapons. I think they're going to be a really strong team this year. I'm saying it's a loss.
Also a loss.
You got the Bengals at home. I said a split. I think it could be because the Bengals have no defense still. They have defensive rookies, so I'll say a win there at home.
I was going to say this is usually the part in the year where we have like a pretty decent record with
Okay, I have 3 losses. You have 4 there. Then you got the Bears in Chicago. Cold weather Bears. I'm not sure that they're going to look a lot different. I think they're going to look a lot better. We just don't win in Chicago. Chris is going to say win because he has a vendetta against the Bears. I'm going to say a loss. So now we're tied at the same.
it's not a vendetta against the Bears. It's a vendetta against Jeff. You hear me, Jeff?
That's okay. So now we're back to square. We're 4 losses. We just don't win in Chicago, in my opinion. So I have 4 losses. You have 4 losses. Next is Buffalo at home at 3:30. We're getting spanked on that one.
Loss.
Yeah, it's a loss. Next is at Baltimore. That's a loss.
Loss.
Next is at home against Tua on Monday Night Football.
Win.
Cold weather Tua. That's a win. If that game was in September, I would say loss. I really would. That's a win.
But it's going to be a win.
Yeah. Like cold weather Tua. He might not even be. Let me chill. He might not be playing.
Plus, Tyreek's going to be on our team. So,
Tyreek's going to be on our team. You never know.
exactly.
We have 6 losses so far. The next one's a loss. It's Detroit, 3:30 in Detroit. I'm going to say a loss.
Destroyed.
It's 7 losses. Next one's Browns. I'm going to say win because F them.
I'll say win too.
And then Ravens, I'm going to say. Actually, I'm going to say we get swept by the Ravens. I'm going to say 8 losses.
I will agree.
So 9-8, pretty much right where they're going to be.
You want a
That is
positive?
optimistic.
You want like positivity from us? Here it is, 9-8.
That is optimistic because I could definitely flip Vikings to a loss and Seahawks to a loss, and then there's 7-10. I could flip one of those teams we should always beat into a loss, like Colts or Patriots, and there's 6-11. Like that was optimistic, but there's a bunch of losses on the board we could easily switch. That is going to do it for the podcast, the 100th episode. Thank you so much for listening to this absolutely insanely long episode of the Northern Steel Podcast. Actually, it wasn't that long. We've had longer. I'm your host, Dominic. This is Chris. Chris, do you have anything to say to the people before I do a little more of a sign off?
I do. I just I wanted to say a little bit more than those Steelers. But thank you, everyone, for listening. I don't know if this is it or not, but if it is, it has been so fun just being able to come on here with my brother and talk about Steelers football, something that we love, that we grew up doing, and turn it into just a passion and a nice little fun thing to just get together every single week. And 100 episodes, like that's a lot of time to do this, and a lot of Steeler players I had to name. So I it's been fun, and I've enjoyed every piece of it. So thank you for listening, and like always, go Steelers.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Whoever has, it's one of those things where we joke a lot about the amount of listeners we've gotten. But for those who have listened, it is very appreciative. At the end of the day, this is a fun thing to do, right? But it's like we said, it's tough when we're just complaining the entire time, or and we have full-time jobs, we both have kids, wives, and the you really have to really have to put your all into something like this for it to grow. And I still kind of plan on maybe catching up on content while we're taking a break here. And maybe something happens with that, maybe it doesn't really matter. But it is a lot to just keep it rolling and to keep it going on our own. That being said, it has been fun. It's been cool to talk about Steelers every week and do it. And Chris and I are still going to do it on the phone regardless that we do it. So this may be it. This may not be it. But for now, it's goodbye until we decide later. And thank you so much for listening to the Northern Steel Podcast. You know where to follow us. You know what to do. Appreciate you. And we'll see you around. Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.
Peace.
Deuces.